We've had a warm winter with just a little bit of frost, and today I'll show you my low desert Arizona garden in January. What's growing, what I'm harvesting. I'll give you an update on my small space gardens, and I'll let you know how those mosquito traps are working. So let's take a look at this front bed. The star, of course, is these Roma tomatoes. I've got 3 Roma plants in these tall cages. Romas are indeterminate, so they're gonna get a lot of their fruit all at one time, which isn't a bad thing. I am so excited to make a big old batch of homemade salsa with all of these tomatoes. You can see that I did get some frost and just a couple areas in the garden. These sweet potatoes, I have this little patch that I grow for my chickens because they love the greens. I just harvested some right before the frost came, and you can see where I cut. That's where the frost damage is. The rest of the plant seems fine. I think it'll be fine. I have Nicotiana volunteers. Last year, these were beautiful and large, and it was fun to see them come back this year. Also have the garlic growing in this bed. I'm not sure what kind of a garlic year it's going to be. With it being so warm, I'm just not sure. How is everyone else's garlic doing? Mine doesn't look great this year, so just gonna kind of wait and see how that does. But in the meantime, let's get some of these tomatoes harvested. It's been so nice having fresh tomatoes, really as many as we can use, almost more than we can use. It's been a great year for tomatoes with all the mild temperatures. Not too bad. Let's head into this arch garden and see what's growing. So the cool season crops have been super happy. I've harvested a lot of broccoli out of here already. I've got some cabbage that I want to get harvested, Swiss chard, growing pretty well. Lots of peas. Most of the peas haven't made it in the house. I usually eat them in the garden, but it looks like there's enough. I could actually get a little harvest from these. Kale, I love just coming out, picking what we need. Got some broccoli here that I'm gonna let that size up a little bit more. I think it could still get a little bit larger. So some of the crops in this bed, because it has been warmer, have bolted. So I've got a lettuce right here that's bolting, some mustard greens that have bolted. But what I do if I see something that's bolted, I usually feed it to the chickens and they don't mind. You want some breakfast? So these are super sugar snap peas. You eat the whole pod. You don't take the peas out. This is getting a little bit big. They're still good. This one's getting too big. This won't be as good. I don't like to let them get quite that large, but they're still not bad. Probably my favorite crop, just because it's just so sweet when you harvest it in the garden. And really, any size of these tastes good. I'm gonna go ahead and just get them harvested. Okay, I'm gonna eat another one. So good. Okay, I'll leave those for breakfast tomorrow. This cabbage is ready. The head is nice and tight, and it's got some pest damage on these outer leaves, but I think the inner ones are fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut it off right at the base like that. Leave those roots and they will add organic matter. So I'll peel these leaves off. I'll feed these to the chickens too, but we'll put that right there. Also want to get some of this kale harvested. For the kale, I just harvest just a little bit of the outer leaves on each plant. Gives me plenty. It's so nice just having access to fresh greens outside. I miss this time of year when it gets hot. And just come out, pick what you need, and leave the rest for another day. And there were a couple of tomatoes on here I want to go ahead and get harvested. So these are celebrities. You know, they're larger than the Romas, and they can crack, which these actually don't look too bad. But the larger they get, see, that one's got a little crack in it. Out of all the tomatoes, these tend to be the ones that crack. And because it's so warm, I am just going to leave the rest of these to ripen on the vine. I dedicated a lot of bed space to cut flowers this year, and I'm already starting to get some blooms, and I'm loving it. So this is campanula or campanula. I still don't know how to say it. But I've got one layer on here, and a couple of them are starting to go up. So we'll keep an eye on it. I may need to put another layer here. Snapdragons have their second layer on. Had some wind come through and hail. That front bed gets more sunlight, so the flowers are a little further ahead, and it toppled a bunch of them. So I came back out, put the second layer of netting on. Really, those flowers now can grow up through the netting, and it keeps them straight. If they tip over, they won't bend back, and they're crooked. So Don't love that. But these are slower. I haven't really had any blooms yet in here. Beaver few. Really excited about this. This is a beautiful filler flower, really white, just really delicate and pretty. So I'm not sure. I haven't done the trellis netting on this before, so I'm going to kind of keep an eye on it. But it's starting to take off. I've got some Dara in here as well. Already harvested a few times off of these snapdragons. The colors are a little different than what I thought they'd be, so we'll keep an eye on those, and hopefully we'll still get some of those beautiful colors that I like. Lots of snapdragons this year, though. This is the cold spot in my yard. This is where I can definitely see a little bit more frost damage. The loofah that's over the chicken coop, that top there, definitely some of that cold air settled there, got frost damage there. I don't think it damaged the entire vine, just some of it on the top. Those loofahs are still growing. We'll just let them keep going. Even though we had those couple of frosty nights, it has been a very warm winter. Typically by now, this tree is completely yellow and it's lost most, if not all of its leaves. And you can see it's still pretty green. The leaves, after that cold night, they come off pretty easily. So I've actually been out here shaking it a little bit, trying to get the leaves off. I am not sure how many peaches we'll get off this tree this year. We'll see. I'm going to prune it this weekend, and we'll just kind of see. You'd never know. You know, there's good things like all of the tomatoes about the warm winters, and then there's kind of the downside, which means our fruit trees that need chill hours didn't get them this year. So it will be very interesting to see how this fruit tree reacts. Do the mosquito traps work? Yes, actually they do. It's been a wet winter, lots of mosquitoes. I put 4 of these up in the 4 corners of our property, and we've noticed significantly less mosquitoes now. I hardly see any out in the garden, actually. So these you're supposed to replace every 30 days. It was more like 45 days when I replaced it, but I will definitely keep using these because really it's taking care of our mosquito problem. So not a paid advertisement or anything like that, but we had a lot of mosquitoes this year, and this has really helped. All right, this part of the garden doesn't get as much sunlight in the winter, but things are still growing pretty well. And the first sweet peas, I'm seeing these. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm so excited. I gotta smell them. Yes. Okay, so lots of sweet peas planted around my garden, but these are the first blooms. I'm very excited. What have I been harvesting in here? This used to be full of peppers. I've taken out some of the peppers, and there's daffodils in here, and I'm starting to see a couple of the first daffodils pop up in the containers, but I haven't seen them here. I did notice on this floss flower, a little bit of frost damage right there. And as I've harvested some of the cool season crops, more broccoli over here, I planted some of these fava beans, and they are up and blooming. I saw the bees on these yesterday. A viewer told me about this red variety of fava beans. So they're beautiful and not quite as big as some of the other ones. They're still toppling over a little bit, but I think I'm just going to leave them. I've got also the spinach variety that someone told me about. It is popped up and not quite ready to harvest, but looks like it's growing pretty well. So I'm going to, let that keep going. And let me show you over here. So I had cauliflower that I've been harvesting, and I let this one get away from me. Once this cauliflower begins to separate and flower, it's not good anymore. So I'm sad to see this. This was the biggest head, and I kind of forgot about it. And so now it won't taste very good, actually. So the chickens might get a treat and have this in a couple of days. Because it has been so warm, I've still got peppers going. There's a couple here that I want to go ahead and get harvested. It's been so nice, really, to have just an abundance of peppers and tomatoes this season. Getting kind of spoiled. So I'll leave the rest on there, and I've just been harvesting as I need them. The asparagus wasn't completely died back, but I went ahead and cut everything back and fed it. Hopefully we're gonna see some nice spears popping up here pretty soon. I love asparagus season. It's kind of like fresh peas. It's short and sweet, but they're just taste so good. So hopefully we'll see some spears popping up soon. I planted bearded iris for the first time this year, and it's fun to see those popping up. So it'll be really interesting to see their big, beautiful blooms. So I'm going to keep an eye on those. The foxgloves are just kind of hanging out, which is what they do. And then spring comes and they wake up and get beautiful. So let's head into the rose garden. This area, I have roses that have been in the ground, I think for almost 2 years now. So this is the time of year to give them a good hard prune. So that's what I'll be doing this weekend, along with pruning the fruit tree, is pruning all of my roses that have been in the ground that long. Some of my other newer roses, I'm only going to just take off, damaged canes, dead canes. I'm not going to do a hard pruning on those. I'm just going to let those keep going. But I'll definitely be pruning all of the roses along here this weekend and getting them ready for spring, and hopefully we'll have beautiful blooms. They haven't really died back. Again, that warm weather kind of keeping the roses going, but I'm going to go ahead and prune them. These front beds, it's where I got my first broccoli harvest, and this is the first time that I have had broccoli bolt. I don't know if that happened to anyone else this year, but some of the broccoli in this bed didn't form a head. Instead, it just kind of bolted. So once I harvested that, I went ahead and put fava beans here. So more fava beans growing, and they'll feed the soil. When I'm ready to plant warm season crops, we'll chop and drop, that whole thing. But really, it's been interesting to see the warmer temperatures. Got this bolting as well. Some under here still doing okay. We've harvested lots of bok choy. It's been an excellent year for bok choy. I really like this variety that I got transplants from the worm farm, I think. And new variety to me, super fast growing and really pretty tasty. And it hasn't bolted or anything. So I am going to write that variety down. I definitely like that. Dill coming, and I noticed the first couple of anemone blooms and lots of ranunculus foliage all through my garden. No blooms yet. Really excited to see those first blooms come up. Let me give you an update on the small space gardens. First, the GreenStalks. I planted both of them out with strawberries, and I moved them from over where they weren't getting much sunlight. I have one here and another one in another part of the garden. They both get pretty good sunlight. And I'm starting to see some blossoms on the strawberries, and we've harvested just a couple of strawberries so far. Something I've noticed, a little bit of powdery mildew on these. I've treated it a couple of times with the sodium bicarbonate powder. That seemed to help, and I think we've got it under control. I am feeding these with the Fruiting Agro Thrive. I fed them probably 3 times this season, so pretty regular feeding for me to keep these going, and I'm really hoping for a great strawberry season. So we'll keep an eye on those. Something that's really surprised me is how well this elevated bed has grown. I moved it to a spot that gets great sunlight, and it has been so happy. No disease, lots of harvest. I've been harvesting kale, celery, a couple of beets. We're getting our first peas. I've got broccoli forming. Had lettuce out of here. Like, it has just exploded with growth and just been really happy. I fed it just like I fed the strawberry. So I think I fed it 3 times with not the Fruiting Agro Thrive, but just the regular one. It has a little more nitrogen. And this bed has just been very happy. This is a bright spot in my garden for sure. I have really loved it. So I haven't had to water it very often. It has the oyas. It has 3 medium oyas in here. And about once a week is when I'm watering. Really, I can't say enough good things about this bed. It's been really happy with how the cool season crops have done in this elevated bed. Look at this Swiss chard. So it's grown great, and it's beautiful too. I think it looks really good. If it can hold soil, I garden it when it's cool outside. So I've got containers everywhere all over my garden, and they're starting to bloom. Things are starting to happen. I cannot wait to show you this area in a month or so. It's going to be so beautiful. But for now, I'm happy to see the alyssum and lobelia blooming, all those ranunculus popping up, just the first tips of daffodils, lavender. Everything is just promising that it's going to just be a beautiful spring. So really excited about a lot of the flowers that I have growing in the containers along the front of the garden. Take a look at the size of these leaves, these Hestia ranunculus that I have around my garden. The foliage is huge. So I don't know if that means I have too much nitrogen and it's not going to have blooms, but I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it means it's going to be big and beautiful blooms too. So we'll keep an eye on these, and hopefully we'll have some blooms, but Man, so much foliage, lots of more flowers in here. And so for the first time, I actually added some flower pots along this edge of my garden. This is kind of a seeding area that we have here, and again, starting to bloom. We've got things popping up. The first poppies have kind of bloomed a little bit. Some delphinium in here, some petunias, lots of fun flowers, sweet peas in these trellises starting to climb. And these are those big sweet peas that are just so beautiful. They're beautiful with the Hestia ranunculus. So I hope they both bloom and look as good as they did last year. I grew Roselle in whiskey barrel containers this year, and it was perfect. It kept them out of my beds. I got lots of harvest. And because we've had such a mild winter, I was hoping that I could overwinter them because they're very frost sensitive and usually they don't survive. Actually, they've never survived for me over the winter. But they both got covered in powdery mildew. They were not happy. That kind of warm, cool, wet weather did not agree with the Roselle, so I went ahead and took both of them out. I'll probably just plant again, replace some of the soil, and plant Roselle in these containers again in the spring because it worked out really well, but no overwintering for me this year for Roselle. Along with pruning the fruit trees and the roses, I'm also going to finish up pruning the grapes. This is the time of year it makes such a difference if you can get all three of those things pruned. So I've got a big weekend of pruning, but I have one done, and I'm going to come in and get these other vines pruned because who doesn't love fresh grapes? So I want to make sure that we get a nice harvest this year, and I'm going to keep these pruned. Let's finish up this tour in the side yard garden. This bed is full of cool season crops. Look at this celery. I've been harvesting a little bit, stalk at a time of celery, but I'm probably gonna have to pick it up because once it gets hot, celery doesn't like it. So I'll keep this harvested and hopefully that will give the cabbage in here a little bit more room. I've got beets that are ready to harvest. This bed has grown really well now that I got all of those citrus roots out of the bed. This herb garden kind of just hanging. They don't love the kind of cooler temperatures. The turmeric, you can see that I was overwintering, kind of died back a little bit. I'm hoping that that root didn't rot and that it will send up fresh shoots, but we'll see. We kind of have to wait and see on that. And the tomatoes, again, it's been the year for tomatoes. So this is one Juliet tomato plant. I come out and harvest, you're filling up your shirt full of tomatoes. So prolific and pretty good sized tomatoes, kind of a large grape tomato. If I could pick one plant just for production and the amount of tomatoes and how well it grows, disease resistance, all of those things, I would say Juliet, top of that list. It has really grown very, very well, but give it lots of room. Let's see, lots, it's huge. The Jolene tomatoes, they've done pretty well. I've harvested quite a few tomatoes off of here. I did have one plant that really just kind of got diseased. So I picked off all of those green tomatoes and let them ripen inside. I put them in a box with a banana. They all turned red, so that was a win. So I'm down to 3 Jolene tomato plants, but consistently I'm coming out, picking a few tomatoes, pretty decent sized, and overall really happy with these. I hope that this plant keeps going through the summer. It's supposed to be really heat tolerant, so we'll see. Once it gets hot, if it's still going, how it does. Thanks for joining me on this January garden tour. I love all of the tomatoes that this warm winter has brought us. It'll be interesting to see what that means for all of the fruit trees. I can't wait for the blooms this spring. So much to look forward to. Thank you so much for watching. Want a thriving desert garden? Join my monthly online classes, live or on replay, and get instant access to past classes and journals. Bring your questions and let's grow together in Growing in the Garden Academy.